Good evening, and welcome to this edition of Labor Vision. I'm Bob Delaney, Executive Director of the Institute for Labor Studies and Research. Labor Vision, a production of the Institute, focuses on topics of importance and interest to working Rhode Islanders. We hope you enjoy this evening's edition.
Just first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is George Nee. I'm the president of the Rhode Island AFL-CIO and the chairman of the board of the Institute for Labor Studies and Research. On behalf of the Institute, for some of us who have been here for a few years, it's hard to believe this is our 32nd annual dinner. And as always at these events, we want to acknowledge our brothers and sisters from the building trades who built this beautiful building, all union, our brothers and sisters from the hotel and restaurant workers, Local 217, who serve the food, and our brothers and sisters from Local 271, the IBEW, Plumbers and Pipe Fitters 51, who keep this building in superb condition. This is what happens when you use union labor. At this time, I would just like to ask you again to rise for a moment of silence. We lost a very dear sister to the labor movement in the last month, Rita Stravato, who was the office manager for the Rhode Island AFL-CIO for 20 years. And this labor movement, there's some of us that get a lot of publicity and controversial sometimes, etc. But there are people that we all know that come to work every day in administrative capacities, in positions that aren't very high profile, but they're the heart and soul of our organizations. They're the people who keep these organizations running. And Rita was a longtime member of the Machinists Union. She was our office manager for 10 years, worked for the AFL-CIO for 20 years. So in recognition of her great service, I'd just like to have a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you. The remembrance of the workers who were killed at the 1934 Salesville strike, and none other than Jim Riley, the Secretary-Treasurer of the UFCW, Local 328, gave that speech. Now, the Institute got an award for that, and Jimmy was very disappointed to find out that night that when he went and got the award, there was no red carpet for him. So tonight we are doing a reenactment of the award with the red carpet for James Riley. Step up to the plate, Brother James. The show is yours.
Thank you. Nice to see you. The flagship among the programs offered by the Institute of Labor Studies and Research is the Workplace Adult Education Project. Students pursue education opportunities through attainment of GEDs. They strengthen their English language skills with ESL courses, and they improve their employment skills as a result of their academic pursuits. Please join me in welcoming the co-directors of the Workplace Adult Education Project, Sophie Tan and Brady Dunkley, and program graduate representatives.
Good evening. The Workplace Adult Education Project has provided learning opportunities for union and community members in Rhode Island since 1987. The majority of our students are immigrants who want to improve their English skills. Some are adults who didn't finish high school. All share a determination to provide better lives and opportunities for themselves and their families. We had over 160 adult learners enrolled in classes this year. Students who are able to attend this evening are joining us on stage. Please join me in welcoming them. We'd like to thank our team of dedicated instructors. They're deeply committed to the learners and their empowerment. 4 of our instructors are here with us this evening: Michelle, Mimi, Ginya, and Sylvia. So I don't know where This year we had 12 ESL and GED classes at 7 different locations, including union offices, job sites, and a public library. We'd like to recognize the unions and organizations that sponsored a class this year: District 1199 SEIU and Butler Hospital, District 1199 SEIU and Women and Infants Hospital, District 1199 SEIU and Bannister House, SEIU Local 615 and United Nurses and Allied Professionals, Teamsters Local 251 and Rhode Island Hospital, Unite Here Local 217, and Pawtucket Public Library and the Rhode Island Family Literacy Initiative. So Brady Dunkley will introduce our student speakers this evening.
Thank you, Sophie, and thank you all for joining us and for your support of adult education. We are honored to work with a group of students committed to learning in spite of the barriers faced by adults who want to continue their education. The adult learners in our classes juggle many responsibilities in order to participate. They are often the primary providers and caregivers for their families, many of them holding down more than one job. Our classes are designed to be accessible to busy adults. Classes at job sites meet across the shift change so that union members can come to class at the end or the beginning of a shift. We offer weekend classes as an option for people who are unable to come during the week. In collaboration with SEIU Local 615, the Sunday English classes were established in 2007. They serve union and community members who cannot attend class on any other schedule, usually because of work. We have 2 levels of classes that meet for 3 hours on Sunday afternoons. The Sunday class schedule is unique in Rhode Island. Learners who choose to participate in the Sunday class are especially dedicated. They make the effort to come to class on what is often their only free day. Tonight we are proud to have 2 representatives from our Sunday class as our student speakers. Adler and Maria are classmates in Sylvia's advanced class, and please join us in welcoming them.
Good evening. I'm Domingos Correia. I came from Portugal. And the Pawtucket Library opened his door for me. It's a great opportunity to learn and improve my English, because I love this country long time ago, not yesterday. A long time ago, I love this country. I know something about this country. So I'm here, I'm living here now. I have a family, because years ago I married, and I intend to do everything I can for this country and for ourselves.
Ladies and gentlemen, coordinators, teachers, good evening. We are celebrating together ISL and ESL program. It is a very important program. I remember in 2008, I decided to come to the United States I was a tailor in Haiti. I was a minister. I studied theology for 4 years. And since 2006, and I was a coordinator, a group like helping children who cannot go to school. That means I'm not a child. And then I can say, I'm older than you think. In 2009, I get a visa, and I came here. After some unexpected time in Florida, and after the earthquake in Haiti, about 300,000 people died there. I decided to move in Rhode Island to get more education and to be ready to work. I remember in 2010, I started that program at the beginning level, but right now, I'm in advanced level. While taking ISL classes, I achieved a certified nursing assistant at East Providence Career Center. And now I'm enrolled in LEAP program at URI as a pre-student. It's very important for anybody who knows that it's never late to learn. And I had an interview with someone at URI. She said she started to read and write at 34 years old. That means at my age. I can do it, that she said, and I know I can do it, and I start to do it. It's very important also to know that in ISR program, we got some qualified teacher that they help me a lot. It's under their help, I can do that in couple time. They made that appreciate for that. And then I wanna tell to my classmates, if they doesn't have a goal, they will go nowhere. Start to study, you should have a goal. Nobody have to give you a dream. It's your responsibility to guide it. I want to thank my teachers for their patience with me. And I want to let them know nobody can pay them for their work. Nobody can pay a teacher for those acknowledged. Somebody said that to be a teacher, teaching is a great opportunity, but they just give all of teachers a gratification. And I think that to United States. United States cannot pay a teacher. And I want to thank my coordinators because they choose the best teacher for us in that program. And I want to thank any supporter for the economic support because they help me. And with their support, I can reach my goal. Thank you, everyone.
Good evening, teachers, students, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very grateful to be here tonight and for you to give me the opportunity to represent the students of the English course sponsored by the Institute for Labor Studies. Last year, volunteering for a Beacon Hospice in Bannister House, I read the notice about the English course for people who work in that place. immediately afterwards, I asked one of the CNAs about the course, and she told me that it also was for people from the community. The classes, that English classes started last September and are divided in 3 trimesters: September to December, January to March, and April to June. There is a fee of $40 that we had to pay in the beginning, and they return us $20 when we have the test at the end of them. That for me is too cheap because we have the opportunity to learn a lot of things in those courses. We meet every Sunday at the UNAP building at Branch Avenue in Providence from 12 to 3 p.m. The first Sunday I went to the class, I thought I would not stay for long. You cannot imagine how hard it is to work all the week, Monday to Saturday, and then go to class on Sunday. But now, after 5 months, each passing week, I like more the idea to come into class because always I learn something new. Thanks, Sylvia, for teaching us the 3 different ways to pronounce the past tense of the regular verb. Maybe for you, it doesn't mean anything, but for me, that's one of the more difficult things. That's one of the most difficult topics to learn in English. I was born in Spain, and when I was 5 years old, my father decided to immigrate to Venezuela, where I was living for 44 years with my family. I came to the United States in October 2003. I was 49. Circumstances in my life led me to make that decision. I never imagined that I would be here for so long, but I'm here. The early days were so difficult for me, for the weather was one of the most difficult things. No job, no money, and the commitment to help my children, who were studying at the university in Venezuela. Thanks God and all the angels that He has placed in my way, things have improved. I found a job, not in my field, but a job that allowed me to support myself and help my family. My 2 children graduated from the university. Early this year, I got my permanent residency in this country, which will allow me, along with my studies in English, enter the college for further study. To communicate with other people who speak different languages is one of the most important achievements that any human being can perform. That's my goal. Not only will improving my English allow me to express myself better, but also, God willing, in a short-term future, to find a job where I can utilize my knowledge and experience gained through the years. Sometimes I get discouraged for my age. If you know a little mathematics, you know how old I am. But as they say, and I think my compañero aquí also said that it is never too late to learn. And that's my advice for all of you. Do not desist. Do your best as often as you can. Read, talk, watch TV, not in Spanish, just in English, listen the radio, and go to class. I want to thank you, Sophie, Brad, Brady, and a special thanks to our teacher, Sylvia, for being such a good and dedicated one. Thank you so much, all of you.
Well, if those testimonies don't warm your heart, then you must be a Republican. What? No. Senator Dominic Ruggiero is in the House. Welcome, sir. Deputy Majority Leader. Thank you, Admiral Maria and Sophie and Brady, for the good work that you do on behalf of all the students. It's always inspiring every year at this event to hear the graduates who appreciation of their own accomplishments. Makes us all proud of the hand that we have in supporting this wonderful institute. Next on the program, I'd like to bring up the graduates of the class of 2012 and our Leadership for a Future program and Program Director Carolina Burnell. Please welcome them to the stage.
Thank you, Jim. By the way, I'm still learning English. Good evening, brothers and sisters. Every year, the Institute for Labor Studies and Research provides a leadership training for emerging leaders from community, labor, and religious organizations who work and advocate for positive change in our communities. Throughout 8 sessions of educational experience, participants examine the process and impact of leadership on the many issues facing our communities. They focus on relationship building, institutional reflection, power analysis, and initial studies in a number of societal topics. In addition, they learn about Rhode Island's history, culture, politics, and economics. Tonight, I have the great pleasure to introduce 11 individuals who are graduating from the Leadership for a Future class of 2012. Congratulations to all of them. I am very proud of all of them, and I deeply appreciate the time and energy they put into this program. I know how hard it was to come to all the evening classes after working all day, and I really appreciate all the energy. Thank you so much for that. Congratulations again. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the Leadership for the Future's faculty, especially 2 individuals who are always year after year with us. And you know who those individuals are. George Nee and Dr. Scott Molloy, thank you so much for your extraordinary commitment. And also I want to thank Rhode Island AFL-CIO and Working Rhode Island for their extraordinary support and also for providing everything that we need to make this possible. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Justin Kelly, the 2000 class valedictorian. Justin is a member of the Painters Union Local 195 and also is a strong advocate for socio-economic justice. Besides attending the apprenticeship program at the Painter Union and also the Leadership for the Future training program, he volunteers at Fuerza Laboral, a community agency in Central Falls, where he's actively involved in the campaign against wage theft and exploitation of immigrant low-income workers. Please welcome Justin Kelly. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolina. Good evening, brothers and sisters. I want to start with some words that aren't my own, some words from someone from a time of intense conflict and struggle, and actually from a student occupation from the 60s. There's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart, that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears, upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all. That was a portion of a speech from Mario Savio, the late Mario Savio, who was a free speech movement person at Sproul Hall in Berkeley. And to be honest, I'm more comfortable speaking in that sort of environment, one of a place of struggle, picket lines, acts of civil disobedience, rallies, demonstrations, than I am in a formal setting like this. But thank you, and I'm very honored to be here to talk to you briefly. I have to thank my classmates both for a wonderful experience during the course and in asking me to deliver this speech. It's been a sincere honor to meet you all, so thank you very much. Thank yous to the Institute, to George Nee, to Carolina, to James, to all the teachers of the various courses, to Rob Jones. Sincere thanks to my union, the Painters Union, District Council 11, Local 195, my friend and business agent, Scott Duhamel, and our business manager, Dominic Sierri. When I was a young man and I heard those words that I started with from Mario Savio, they resonated with me in a very deep way, and they still do. Those words, along with a lot of other experiences, set me on a course that led me here. A strong awareness of the injustices that are perpetrated every day brought me to a place where I had to find a way, like Mario said, to fight against them. The other day I was listening to the radio on the way home and caught a piece with Cornel West and Tavis Smiley. They were talking about a new book that they wrote called The Rich and the Rest of Us, where they write about poverty in this country. And the point of the interview, and I assume the book as well, it was simple really and obvious to anyone who look around in the world we live in and take in a clear picture of reality. And the point is this, that poverty is still a problem. Income inequality is pervasive, deep, and that we have to step up our game and organize to confront a system that allows this reality. How many people here have a family member who's facing foreclosure? Anyone? How many people know someone that's facing foreclosure? Already faced it. How many people know someone who's unemployed right now? So we're not out of the woods. This is the reality. And so we must organize because that's what we have. The have-nots, the working people, the weak, the sick, the old. We have one big thing. We've got numbers. And we must use that one real resource and build our ironclad strength. And that strength is the strength of solidarity. Transformative organizing is a necessity so that we may realize that we are all connected, that we can speak the words, I am the other. We must engage in the process of transformative organizing so we as a people can undergo that great metamorphosis that Dr. King spoke of, from a thing-oriented society to a people-oriented society. And we must not wait. The time, brothers and sisters, the time is now. I'm confident that we can work together, that we can make that people-oriented society a reality. And I have hope, looking at my classmates from this class, Leadership for a Future, that we can be that change that we need. Thank you.
James, let me humbly present you the Paulie Morrow Leadership Award. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is truly humbling, and I truly thank God for leading me down this path of success that He's put me on. You know, what I do is nothing but what I learned from Leadership for a Future, and I want to thank, can we give a round of applause to, there he is, George Nee, yes, for putting together such a wonderful program, Carolina, Dr. Molloy, and everyone who's had a part in putting together this wonderful program. What I do is what they did for me. They brought me education, they taught me things that I didn't know, and they filled me up with wisdom. And now I've taken this wisdom and I'm just like a big mirror. I just shine it back for the kids. And I hope everyone here, and I know that there are a lot of role models in here. We have to be that for our children. They need something positive to look up to. And that's why I've been created as Mr. Deep Positivity, positive rap educator, someone who has dedicated his life to lifting youth with wisdom and encouraging them to follow their dreams. And I really, really thank you guys for creating this program. It taught me so much about, you know, what do we need in our society? That was one of my class projects. What do we need? What would you do if you had $1 million? And how would you use that to help the youth? That was my project. And I'm actually trying to do that now, trying to get these CDs, this wisdom, into the kids' hands and really let this wisdom seep into their minds and change the way they think so that they can believe in themselves and they can go after their dreams and they can unite with other people and grow up to become mirrors themselves, to shine back wisdom for the next generation, because the kids truly are the future. And I just want to leave you with a song. I can't go in front of a microphone without doing a rap. That's just who I am.
I was expecting you to do that.
So, if you don't mind.
I like this.
This song is called, actually this song was inspired by the students at William Debate. They did a presentation for me, and I was in the audience watching the kids perform, and they talked about their dreams. What do they dream? And so I said, you know what? Those dreams are so powerful, so important, and your dreams mean something. I'm gonna take your dreams and I'm gonna turn them into a song. So this is their dreams, just in rap format. But it's also my dreams, and I'm sure a lot of you are gonna agree, this is your dreams as well. Kids are pretty smart. We dream of a world of peace and equality, a world with no war or poverty. We dream of a world with no minorities, a world full of love where everybody's free. We dream of a world where all your dreams come true, a world of justice for me and you. We dream of a world so beautiful, a world united like family too. We dream of a world with a future bright, a world not polluted, no trash in sight. We dream of a world where everyone is nice, a world where people only do what's right. Yeah. So I just want to leave you with this encouragement. Dare to dream. Dare to follow your dreams and live your dream. I'm Mr. Deep Positivity. Thanks.
Good job, James. I dream of a world where everybody belongs to the union.
Thank you, James and Paul, for your great words and entertainment. The final award before the keynote speaker is the Charles V. Schwartz Memorial Scholarship Award. This scholarship is presented to a student in a labor studies program in an accredited institution for higher learning. Past award recipients have attended the National Labor College, Rhode Island College, and the University of Rhode Island. This year's recipient is a student at URI, working on his program through the Schmidt Labor Research Center, and presenting the award to Daniel Rickerson is Mrs. Chuck Schwartz, Diane Dolphin. Please welcome them both to the stage.
I love coming back here every year. I feel Chuck's spirit here. It's so great to see all of his old friends, all of my old friends. What strikes me is how much has changed, how many more partnerships, more lives are being influenced, and also how much stays the same. The mission, the value stays the same. It's about worker education. It's about people bettering their own lives, creating a greater future for their children, advocating for each other, advocating for fellow workers. It's wonderful to be here. Chuck would be very proud. Chuck was also a worrier, as you all know, and one of the things he fretted about often was who's going to take the torch on, what's going to happen with the next generation. And one of the reasons we set up this scholarship is to pass that torch, to pass it on to young scholars who are showing great promise and a commitment to the labor movement. And you certainly, Daniel, are worthy of the honor of receiving this scholarship, which is not just a scholarship, but a torch, a beacon of light for the labor movement, a sign of faith that the next generation will continue the good fight and create better lives. With that, I present you with the Chuck Schwartz Memorial Scholarship.
Thank you very much. I don't know what to say. Thank you. I never, unfortunately, got to know Chuck, but from what I understand, all the good words I've heard from everyone around, his legacy lives on. And any amount of my scholarship that I've accomplished is only due to the great professors and support from my fellow classmates at URI, at the Schmidt Labor Research Center, and anyone who Professor Scott Molloy has brought into class to speak with us has been fantastic. So again, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
At this point, I'd like to invite up to the stage our Executive Director, Mr. Robert Delaney.
I wanted to take a few minutes to take a kind of a snapshot of the Institute. And I think it's most important, first of all, to thank each and every one of you for being here. This is the largest labor vision. This is the largest awards evening that we've ever had. Thank you to the commitment of organized labor and each and every one of you. So first of all, I want to thank you for attending, but thank you for your commitment to the Institute. The theme of this event for the last 2 years have been building futures and changing lives. There is no doubt in my mind that you've seen the evidence of the difference that you and the Institute makes each and every day. And I really want to take a moment to give a round of applause to a whole variety of students that you've seen tonight and a few that are in the audience that you have not seen. There are 2 students in here with Tony Marie Roderick. I want them to stand. There are people from the Urban League that have been involved in the program right down over here. As a matter of fact, they were at UA 51 trying to do some welding today, and I want to thank Timmy Burns and all the people from UA 51 and Dave Marlin in particular, the training coordinator, for all the work that they do in making sure that we can continue to tell people about labor's organization, but their commitment to education and training. It's always been a passion of mine to be able to connect apprenticeship and college degrees, because all too often a lot of people said, well, the people that go into the apprenticeship were the people who couldn't go to college. Well, we all know that's a lie, because when you do a survey of IBEW or UA 51 or laborers or any one of the apprenticeship training programs, more than 60% of the students who are in apprenticeship training program have 2 college credits or 2 college courses under their belt or more. At UA 51 and IBEW, we have 1 PhD equivalent, we have 2 masters, we have 14 bachelor's degrees, and we have 27 associate's degrees. Apprenticeship is a true pathway to people achieving skilled trades and a degree. I want to point out 2 people tonight. First of all is Kevin Kinney. He's out here somewhere. Kevin Kinney is a member of the Bricklayers. He comes to the Bricklayers with 26 years of experience, but he's currently enrolled in a construction management degree at the National Labor College. When the National Labor College decided to put a construction management program in place, we said, yeah, we can find people for you. And within a matter of 3.5 weeks, we were able to give them 35 people who had associate's degrees or beyond to enter a construction degree in construction management. And then we went one step further. We have college courses being offered in September at IBEW. We have college courses currently being offered at SEIU $11.99, and we have college courses being offered 2 nights a week at UA 51. I want to recognize the training coordinator from UA 51, Dave Marlin. He'll be graduating on June 23rd with a bachelor's degree from National Labor College. David? I have to thank 2 people to guarantee that that continues. I want to thank the members of the Board of Trustees, and I would ask the people that are here to stand so you can see people who meet and make sure that this program continues. Would the members of the Board of Trustees stand? The last people I want to introduce tonight are the people that make it work each and every day. I tell people all the time, if we could, and I say this with the greatest degree of respect, if we could run the community college at the cost that we're running the programs, we could have a very, very large college. We run with a very small staff that do a very, very heavy lift. And I want to take 30 seconds now to tell you and introduce the people that I think are the most important people in the work that we do. And then I'll ask them to stand. James Reinbold, he's the communications guy, and he makes sure that every day the information goes out and that most times you know what we're doing. Roberta, I apologize, I have to say it, she's the worrywart in the group. She makes sure that everything is okay before anything happens. Brady and Sophie, you see the difference that they make. They stood here with people who could not speak English, who didn't have the benefit that we have of just letting it flow. And oftentimes people tell me my mouth can flow fairly well, so I understand that. Carolina makes a difference with Leadership for a Future and the work that she does in the minority community each and every day. Frank Frenzy was in the Dislocated Workers Program and now is full-time at the Institute, and each and every day his job is to go to the Donnelly Center and to help write resumes and help people understand that when you get hurt on the job and you're displaced and it's likely you won't be able to go back to your job, there are other opportunities out there. You have a lot of skills. They're transferable. Life will go on and you will be okay. Our adjunct faculty is Russ Roy. He's with the Dislocated Workers, but he's in our office, and he makes sure the same thing happens. And last but not least, before there, let me mention one other person, Paul Hubbard. He's the guy that's behind the camera all the time. He coordinates Labor Vision. He's not full-time staff, he just works full-time. And last is Roger Boudreau. He's the wedding planner. Sorry, Roger. He makes sure that all the details of this happen. So Roger, I want to say thank you to you for the work that you do in the golf tournament and for running this dinner. It is truly a pleasure to work with them each and every day. It is truly enjoyable to work with George in particular, who's the chair of the board, and call him, and he'll know we talk each and every day, many times sometimes, but because it makes a difference. And I truly want to thank, again, each and every one of you, the Board of Trustees, all the members of the staff, but most importantly, thank you to the students for being involved, and from my perspective, making it all worthwhile when I hear you. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Labor Vision. This will be our 6th session as we look at American labor history, and as always I like to point out we try to bring in incidents from union background as it occurred in Rhode Island as well. My name is Scott Molloy. I'm a professor at the Schmidt Labor Research Center at the University of Rhode Island, where we actually award a master's degree in labor, industrial, and personnel relations. We have both management and labor people sitting at the same table, sometimes in perfect harmony and sometimes arguing as they would in regular life. But it is a great program, and we've graduated people from both sides of the fence, and I think they're all wiser from having listened to us for so many years. Last time we talked about the National Labor Union, the first major grouping in the modern era after the Civil War. We saw they didn't last very long, and the founder, William Silvers, died prematurely, and the Panic of 1873 kind of dismantled this fledgling union. But at the same time, I also mentioned that in many ways, the National Labor Union, because of what they said, much less so than what they did, because they weren't around long enough to accomplish a heck of a lot. But they set the table for the next manifestation of organized labor, this time in the Gilded Age, in the 1880s. A group, and I'm going to give you their full title because, boy, they knew how to name a union back in those days. It was the Noble and Holy Order of the Knights of Labor. Let me say that again. The Noble and Holy Order of the Knights of Labor. And I think a lot of the workers, particularly those who were Catholic, may have felt when they paid their union dues they were going to go directly to heaven and be entered simply because they were up to date on their dues payments. But Noble and Holy Order, I just love that. But in general, they were known as the Knights of Labor or the Order. And they had their beginning very inauspiciously in Philadelphia in 1869, actually right about the same time that the National Labor Union was falling. The Knights of Labor began its career, but secretively. And they did so in the city of brotherly love, among a group of tailors who kept things under wraps because they were scared to death that if management discovered the whereabouts or the existence of this union, the Knights of Labor, that they would do whatever they could to destroy it and probably fire those poor tailors. But anyway, the Knights of Labor proved very adept at secrecy, and even with a little bit of abracadabra added in that early period. They were like the Masonic lodges of the time. They were able to expand using those undercover methods as best they could. And so within about 10 years, by about 1879, 1880, they had moved around the East Coast and had actually made some inroads into the South and the West. And around 1880 or so, the Knights of Labor went public. And they did that because they were ready, they were prepared, they had taught their members at their secret union meetings on how to conduct affairs, and they were ready to take America by storm, and that's just what happened in the 1880s. But before we get to that particular period, much of what went on in the late 1870s and early 1880s was once described by one of the literary giants of American history. He called it the Great Barbecue, that period in that era. And of course, who was being barbecued? Our ancestors. We were put out on the grill and they burnt us to a crisp whenever they could. But the Knights of Labor were run by one of the most dramatic and dynamic personalities in all of labor history, a guy named Terence Powderly. That's Powder with an L-Y on the end of it. And Terence Powderly had been the mayor of Scranton, Pennsylvania. He was a skilled railroad mechanic, and he was a guy who spoke the language of the working class in that day. And so he became the second Grand Master Workman of the Knights of Labor. I'll tell you, I want to belong to a group like that that can come up with those types of titles. I mean, can you see your gravestone, wherever it might be, with the Grand Master Workman on it? People would have thought you were somebody. And certainly Terence Powderly would prove to be somebody indeed. But he was a peculiar type of guy to be the leader of the horny-fisted sons and daughters of toil, as working people were sometimes labeled in that particular era. And Powderly would say some rather unusual things along the way that I still get a kick out of. One newspaper critic would say of Powderly, "English novelists take men of Powderly's looks for their poets, philosophers, and heroes, but no one ever drew such a looking figure as the leader of the working class. So in a sense, he looked more like a poet than a working class chieftain at the time. And Powderly was unusual, too, because many of his members in the Knights of Labor, and it would become the largest labor group ever in American history up through that time, a lot of his rank-and-file constituency were people who didn't mind downing a couple of beers. I'm sure glad we don't do that in the labor movement any longer. And he had this wonderful quote to say about that. "I will talk at no picnics," he said. "When I speak on the labor question, I want the individual attention of my hearers, and I want that attention for at least 2 hours." Sounds like me in class telling the students to shut up and listen. "At a picnic," he said, "where the girls as well as the boys swill beer, I will not talk at all." And I love the fact they swill beer. You know what that means? Half of it's going over you instead of down your throat. But I love that characterization and how indignant he was that people sometimes just wanted to have a good time rather than be involved in labor politics morning, noon, and night. The Knights of Labor came to fruition, as I mentioned, at least in a public way, in the 1880s. And it's sometimes referred to as the second coming of working class identity. Now, these are things that historians use, and that's why we're down at the college there trying to confuse everyone. But what that meant was there were so many things going on in America in the 1880s, in the Gilded Age. Mechanization, automation, the de-skilling of once proud, skilled artisans. That so many things were going on that the working class was in such movement around the country that for a time being it looked as if they might actually seize political power. And we'll see that in some ways they came very, very close to that hope that they had. The Knights were probably the most modern of the labor unions up to that time. They had local unions, which they call local assemblies. They also had state assemblies, and in Rhode Island it was local 99, State Assembly 99. That was our number here in the Ocean State. And they also had a General Assembly or a national conference every year where they broke bread and discussed various matters that were important to the order along the working plane. Now, one of the interesting things is that in 1886, the Knights of Labor held their national convention that year in Richmond, Virginia. And what's unusual about that is that Richmond, Virginia was the capital of the Confederacy only 20 years earlier. And here they're coming with their working class constituents, including African Americans, and their plan was to introduce the governor of Virginia by a black delegate. Well, when the governor got cold feet, figuring he might lose his next election as being too soft on race issues, the Knights of Labor had the black delegate introduce a white delegate who then introduced the governor of Virginia. So they moved over a little bit, but not that much. I think the fact that they held their convention there showed that they were serious about trying to organize the South as well as the North. Another unusual aspect of the Knights of Labor was that approximately 60,000 of their members, and they would grow to about 2.5 million before their demise around 1890 or so. 60,000 women. There weren't a lot of females in the workforce at that time. But the Knights of Labor took them in under the banner of equal pay for equal work. Boy, that's something I remember from the 1960s and 70s, and we still haven't reached full parity yet on pay between men and women doing the same job. Now, the second group that was unusual in the Knights of Labor were people of color, the recently freed slaves. And 10% of the membership of the Knights consisted of people who only a generation earlier often had worked down south on the plantations as slaves. And so the Knights became very powerful and popular in the South because of their emphasis on secrecy, because the slaves, even after they got their freedom, had to be very, very careful living in a highly hostile environment and atmosphere. But in Rhode Island, we'll see that women, in fact, the head of the women's division of the Knights of Labor hailed from Rhode Island. Rhode Island had more women workers than any other state in the Union, mostly immigrants who had to work. And so the Knights of Labor showed a multicultural, using a modern term, a multicultural dimension that was highly unusual for the time. They also did a few other things that were eye-popping, I believe, looking back and thinking that, boy, they operated more than 125 years ago. For example, in Olneyville, Rhode Island, you know, that's Rhode Island right down the road, that was filled with factories and plants and mills. The Knights of Labor in 1886 set up a daycare center so that the young women working in, say, Atlantic Mills, still there today, would have a place to leave their children in safety while they trudged off to work. Can you imagine that? The labor movement setting up daycare centers in the industrial heart of Rhode Island over 125 years ago, and we have not come to grips with that problem in America today. Children are either warehoused, maybe dropped off at Nana and Gramps' house because there's no other place to leave them, but we still haven't, because of the economic recession as well, we still haven't come to grips with that, and yet the Knights of Labor did. They did some other wild and crazy things, too, besides that. One of the more interesting items was that in some instances, down in Wanskuck, Rhode Island, for example, right along Branch Avenue, and you still see some beautiful mills that are there. They look more like they came from Disneyland than from the Industrial Revolution. But in a couple of instances, the Knights of Labor took over the factories. They tossed management out and ran the place on their own and actually had greater productivity when they didn't have management looking over their shoulder. And in some instances, the people who owned the factory said, hey, if you like doing this, be our guest because we won't have to hire as many superintendents and you're putting out more stuff than you ever did. One of the great ironies of the Knights of Labor at that time.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Labor Vision. We appreciate your input and encourage your comments. Labor Vision can be seen 3 times each week, Tuesdays at 7 p.m., Thursdays at 8 p.m., and Saturdays at 5 p.m.